Hello. I'm doing something a bit different today. So obviously I look a bit different and some people will know who I am. But I recently discovered how to watch German Expressionist films. And I know that a lot of people on the channel here are here understanding because they're here for Buster Keaton, for my Buster Keaton stuff. And I wanted to talk about German Expressionist film, and it occurred to me that while I think my audience will come along with me, I should start from a known place and then move into the unknown. So before I actually do a proper big video on German Expressionist film, I thought I would do a video of Buster Keaton to German Expressionist film in 6 films or less. So that is what our video is this week. But before we start, remember that if you want to support us, there is our shop where we have books and writing services, and there is our Redbubble shop where we have all sorts of different designs. There's over 100 designs and Christmas is coming up. If you don't want to spend any money but you still want to support us, absolutely, like, comment, share and subscribe. That is how you support us without having to spend any money. It absolutely is well worth it for us. We really love that. So I'm going to get you from Buster Keaton to German Expressionist film in 6 films. I think that most people have heard of German Expressionist film. I think a lot of people probably have at least seen the actor dressed like I am, Caesar, from the Cabinet of Dr Caligari, which is German Expressionist film. It's a very famous, very striking images. But I'm trying to help people not end up where how I did this. I watched The General and then I watched Nosferatu. That doesn't work. It's like, oh, they're both silent films. Yes, but you may as well say I'm speaking Russian and I'm then speaking English or vice versa. There isn't a lot of crossover there. Like, yes, they're both languages. Yes, they're both silent films, but in terms of reading them, it is a lot more difficult than it first seems. So, to avoid making that mistake, and because it is actually really difficult to just jump straight into German Expressionist film, I thought I would show you a way, a 6 degrees of separation, if you will, though it's not really a 6 degrees of separation. It's just a progress of films that get more and more and more until you're in German Expressionism. So, what is my first one? So we're starting with Buster, so obviously it has to be a film with Buster Keaton in, doesn't it? And it is Sunset Boulevard, of course. What else? Sunset Boulevard. We are actually having to have a detour through the 50s to get to German Expressionism. There isn't a very clear route through the 20s, from American 20s to German 20s. If you're going conventional film, yes, but for German Expressionism, you actually, this odd roundabout route that I'm going to take you is much, much easier. So what happened is, during the 30s, with the big exodus of German filmmakers, for obvious reasons, a lot of Expressionist concepts made their way into American film, but American film is not really experimental in the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s particularly, but it does start to find its way in. You will never find the big, huge, pure German Expressionist style in an American film, but you will find it in places. So it's always going to be dark. These are all quite dark films. Sunset Boulevard is, of course, you've got Gloria Swanson giving this astonishingly over-the-top performance, which is perfectly in line with German Expressionism. The use of shadow, the use of dark, light and dark. It's in LA, and yet this is a dark film. Not only tonally, but visually, it is quite a dark film, especially inside her house. So, Sunset Boulevard is where I would start. Okay? Really, really great film. If you have not seen it, you have to see it. If you have seen it, go watch it again. It's full of a whole lot of silent stars. Buster Keaton isn't the only silent star who makes a cameo in this. So, first one I would start with to go from Buster Keaton to German Expressionism is Sunset Boulevard. Our second film takes us to Vienna. And of course, I have to be talking about The Third Man. This is darker again. Harry Limes, The Third Man, Orson Welles, the amazing, absolutely amazing shadow and play through the chase through the sewer system. The use of shadow in this is astonishing. The dark tone of this is very noir. So both of these are noir. So German Expressionism is able to be recycled into the noir films, which are the dark films of this period. They're crime films. This one is definitely a crime film. It is so good. The only thing I would say about this, and this is me being picky, because this is an English-made film, the audio design on this thing is 1950s English audio design, which means that it was a choice that they made, and I don't know why they made the choice. It was probably cheap. But all sounds are level, and it makes it really, really hard, I find, personally, really, really hard to focus on what you're supposed to focus on when a pulling out of a chair is at the same level as the voices. It annoys me. I love the film. I will put the effort into watching it, but if you have auditory sensitivity, this one might get a little bit tiresome at times. But this is a brilliant, brilliant film. Very dark, very atmospheric. The use of light and shadow is absolutely German Expressionist. I had a choice of 3 different Orson Welles. This one, Citizen Kane, but that's not really using it so much, the camera work, and Chimes at Midnight, which definitely uses it, but Chimes at Midnight is a bit harder to find than this one. So I think, and also Chimes at Midnight, you throw in Shakespeare as well, and it's just like, well, that's a little bit different. So we're now 2 films in. I don't have a copy of the third film. I don't have a copy of the third film because I watched it on a digital platform. I've actually been having trouble getting hold of a copy. I think I've tracked one down, so, just wait till payday. And that is The Night of the Hunter. Now, The Night of the Hunter is really important for you to watch. Why? these two are conventional Hollywood films. They are conventional films that choose to use some German Expressionist elements to create mood and vibe, really. But they are straight mainstream films that you don't really have to adjust what you're seeing. The Night of the Hunter, which was Charles Laughton's only film credit as a director, has Robert Mitchum as the preacher with love and hate tattooed on his hands, the serial killer who kills widows, who's chasing the children with the doll full of $10,000. And the other, he is absolutely amazing. It is like the best performance ever that he gave. Like, he is so evil. He is absolute evil. And that sort of very malefic character is also part of, that vibe is also part of German Expressionism. The other great element of this film that just gorgeousness is Lillian Gish. Lillian Gish as the woman who takes the children in. She is so good. She is such a badass. You will not... she's just so good. She's so good. Another silent star in this. Now, what makes The Night of the Hunter different to The Third Man or Sunset Boulevard? It is so much more stylized. Whereas those films use a naturalistic set, realism. Charles Laughton takes realism out of it. The town is not a realistic town. It's not even pretending to be a realistic town. It looks more like a town that you would find on a stage set, a big stage set, but a stage set. It is tonally so dark. The preacher is a serial killer. He is a serial killer who targets and murders widows and is now chasing children to kill them. So dark, yes, we are talking dark. It is weird. It is proper weird. So it's in style, it is a film noir. It has elements of German Expressionism, but it's also a fairy tale. And a Southern Gothic. So it is a film that is it really is unquantifiable or categorizingable, because it's playing with so many ideas. He has just thrown everything in for his directorial debut. It's like every idea he had went into this film because he was not going to get to do another one. The performances are amazing. But I picked that one. Why? Because of its unreality. Because if you can't handle the unreality of The Night of the Hunter, you are not going to handle the unreality of some other elements that keep coming in as this gets weirder and weirder. This is going to get progressively weirder. Okay? It is very unreal. It is very fairy tale-like, folk tale-like. It is not ever pretending this is reality. No, this is not reality. But you watch it and you engage with it because it is so compelling. If you are willing to surrender to it. If you're going to fight this film, forget it, turn it off, walk away, because it will not work. Not at all for you. So now we've got 3 films. Now we're leaving the 50s. Now we're actually going back to the 20s. Our fourth film brings us a very important director, and more importantly, a very, very important actor, and that is The Man Who Laughs, which is directed by Paul Lenny, who is a German director. It was his, I believe this is his last complete film. He died at 44. And this has Conrad Veidt as Gwynplaine, the Man Who Laughs, and also as Gwynplaine's father. This film, now I'm going to talk a lot more about this one. I actually have clips from this one. This film is very explicitly importing elements of German Expressionism. You see German Expressionism in the opening where King James executes Gwynplaine's father. This is the story, this story, it's a Victor Hugo story, and it is the story of Gwynplaine, who is a young man who was surgically mutilated as a child on the king's orders as punishment to his father, who had defied him. And so this film was a film that was meant to be a Lon Chaney vehicle, because Lon Chaney had done The Hunchback of Notre Dame and he had done The Phantom of the Opera, and Lon Chaney was becoming very famous for doing extreme makeup and really changing his face. Now, Lon Chaney was not able to do the film, so they had to look for another actor, and the actor that they found was Conrad Veidt. Conrad Veidt had been brought over to America by John Barrymore to play the villain in The Beloved Rogue, and John Barrymore discovered that Conrad Veidt was a much stronger actor than him and cut a lot of his stuff out of the film. But this film works because of Conrad Veidt. Lon Chaney probably would have created much more of a grotesque face, and that would have been the performance. I tried watching Phantom, but it's all makeup. The performance is all in the makeup. The performance is all in, oh, well, it looks grotesque, so that'll do. He doesn't have enough charisma to really push that. On top of that, it's a film about music. It's a silent film about singing. Yeah. It's a silent film about singing. It's not great. It had been really, really popular. And Universal were like, okay, well, we'll do another thing like this. Lon Chaney could not have created the Gwynplaine that Conrad Veidt created. And you do know who Conrad Veidt is. I swear you know who Conrad Veidt is. He is Major Strasser from Casablanca. Yeah, the Nazi that everyone sort of glosses over because it's like, oh, it's a Nazi. Yeah, that's Conrad Veidt. He's really, really good. His name for his character in Casablanca, when asked what should your character be named, because a major seems a little bit too low ranking for what that character does. He was originally Colonel Strasser, but Conrad Veidt, who was a vehement anti-Nazi, said that he would like his character to be called Major Nazi Asshole. So he ended up Major Strasser. So that's what he called his character. But here, in this, he's Gwynplaine. And he has, instead of having this huge cosmetic makeup over the top of his face, he's wearing dentures that have hooks in them to stick his face into a rictus grin. plus a lot of makeup around his eyes to really highlight that. Conrad Veidt can go big, like massively big, which we will see. And it's his ability to go big and to express it, which is the part that allows you, when you watch the film, when you see static shots of it, he really looks very unnerving looking. When I bought this, I had to flip the cover image round because the inside cover image was really unnerving. I was like, I love this film, but I cannot look at that all the time. His image in this was the inspiration for the Joker in Batman in 1940. A photograph, a still photograph from this was the inspiration for the Joker. So that gives you an idea of what he looks like in that. But there is absolutely no point with this performance because he has this extraordinarily big style that he can bring, that you look at him and think of him as a monster or the mutilation. What you see is that he lets you see the man underneath. And the man underneath is a man who is really suffering with what has been done to him. He is an innocent, he is a good innocent man who is suffering from this mutilation of his face as a very small child. So again, dark themes. This time we have a director and an actor who are explicitly tied to German Expressionism, and we have explicitly German Expressionist imagery. The closing of the Iron Lady, the gibbet in the snowstorm. These are explicitly German Expressionist imagery, but they are within a much more viewer-friendly narrative, which makes this an easier watch, an easier step in. So that is 4 films. We're nearly there. Once you've got Conrad Veidt, once you have worked out, oh, this is extremely artificial, then you are ready for the first one. Now, there is a bit of debate. Is this the first German Expressionist, or is the Golem? I think this one is really considered the first German Expressionist. The Golem is almost there, but this is the one that sets the tone for German Expressionism, and that is the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. So the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is from 1920. It is very thin on plot. It is very, very thin on plot. It is a man telling his story in a park, in what looks like a park, about what has happened to him and his fiancée. And we go into his story and instantly everything is false. Everything is false. The backdrops are painted. The town is painted and is visually false, like instantly. The shadows and the light are painted onto the walls of the rooms. It is, the characters are overpainted, except for 3. There are only 3 characters who are not overpainted. One is the narrator's friend. One is a doctor who is the father of the girl that both men love. And the third is a police officer, the detective. And Dr. Caligari is a traveling showman who has this somnambulist, or sleeper. I hate that word. I can't say it. The sleeper Caesar, who has been asleep for 23 years, but you can wake him up and he will tell your fortune. And the narrator's friend asks, how long will I live? And Caesar says, until dawn. And the friend is murdered. Now, this then carries on and carries on. I won't tell you the whole story because the point isn't the story. The point of these is, if you just go by the story, you just go, well, that sounds completely stupid. It is. It's completely stupid. And as they discovered when a very bad remake was made in 2005, don't watch it. You do not need this thing with talking. Do not want talking in this thing. This thing works because it's a silent film. If you stick talking in it, whole thing goes to pot. Yeah, the plot, it's like a shot-for-shot remake. Why? Why? What are these? They're not films like this or like any of the others. This is a nightmare. This is a nightmare, but it's not a nightmare of a single person. This is a collective nightmare of a nation trying to come to terms with the trauma that their country has gone through. These are highly, highly, highly symbolic films. They are not, this represents this and this represents this. If you're going to watch it like that, just no, do not do that. Do not do that. They end abruptly. It's very difficult to work out, oh, well, who or what is this about? I think this one is about guilt. I really do. I think this is about guilt. I think this is about collective guilt over the deaths of so many people in the war. Personally, that's how I read it. That's my reading. That's how I create meaning out of this. That doesn't have, you don't have to do that to create meaning out of this. That's mine. And that is, I think, one of the things that gives these films such enormous power is I can have my reading, you can have your reading, and because it's a nightmare, it can mean whatever to anyone else. These are films that are looking underneath into the shadow world, into the unconscious world. It's like laying out tarot cards. You are going to get, every single person who reads those tarot cards is going to get a different meaning from those tarot cards. That's what I think these films are. They are absolutely beautiful, but if you watch them expecting narrative like a traditional narrative film, this won't work terribly well. So Conrad Veidt doesn't actually do much in this. Not physically. He's there, he's a presence. Every single second that he is on the stage or on the set, you watch him because he's magnetic to watch. But he doesn't actually do a lot. And yet what he does do is very powerful. It is expressing. It is the internal expressed externally. However, Caesar is not exactly Caesar has been asleep for his whole life. He gets occasionally woken up to give fortunes and murder people. So he's not, he doesn't have really much inner life. That's why we go to our final film, our sixth film. So technically I have got you already to German Expressionism. But our sixth film is, and I really love this, I only saw this this week. It finally arrived in the post. The Hands of Orlac. Now, The Hands of Orlac has the most amazing use of the light, the shadow, the train wreck at the beginning of this film is done so well. There is light, the searchlight of the locomotive that's come to help after two locomotives have hit head on. The confusion, the twisted metal, the people running around with flares looking for the injured and the dying in this twisted, broken machinery is pure German Expressionism. And then you get the bulk of the story, the Hands of Orlac. Paul Orlac is a pianist, and his hands are destroyed the injuries to his hands make them unsavable. He is given a transplant. Unknowingly, he doesn't know that he's been given a transplant because his wife begs the doctor to save his hands. He's a pianist after all. So he doesn't know. His hands are bandaged and he doesn't know they're not his hands until he is told he has the hands of a murderer. And the whole rest of the film is him going slowly mad or rapidly mad as the idea of having a murderer's hands takes him over. It is absolutely amazing. The sets are big and cavernous and empty. The acting that Veit gives is almost like interpretive dance than acting. His hands are constantly in frame, in use, on his face, in his mouth. He is able to show on his face the turmoil of a man who does not know what he is anymore. It's very reminiscent of the Grimm's brothers' story of the three army surgeons. The three army surgeons who are such great army surgeons, and they have a magic salve. They show off to the innkeeper of what great surgeons they are, promising, okay, well, we can remove any body part and return it in the morning. And so we show you, one cuts his hand off, one takes his heart out, and one takes his eyes out. They put them in the cupboard overnight and they get eaten by the cat. So to replace them, the maid and her boyfriend, who was the reason why the cupboard door was open for the cat to eat them in the first place, take a thief's hand, a pig's heart, and the cat's eyes, and they're put into the three army surgeons. The three army surgeons leave, thinking, having had this interesting situation, they are completely unaware until the thief's hand keeps stealing things. The man with the pig's heart keeps rolling in the mud. The man with the cat's eyes can't wake up in the morning, and then at night he can't sleep. They realise that they haven't got their own parts, and they go back to the innkeeper and they find out what has happened, and they beat him up and take his money, take whatever money they can in recompense. But each of the men would like to have their own body parts back. That's essentially what's happening in here. This is who are you after something that traumatic? Who are you once something truly traumatic, the train wreck? Who is the nation after the war, after the identity and everything else has been violently pulled away, and you're told, okay, well, this is your new world now? These are nightmares. These are honest to God nightmares. The ending isn't great, but how do you end a nightmare? How do you end that? It's not, you can't tie it up nicely. This is absolute body horror. It does come from a French novel that was deliberately body horror. But if you get to this and you enjoy this with the huge expressive acting, because you watch this and it's like, oh, there's Gwynplaine, because the Man Who Laughs comes after this chronologically in time. You see Gwynplaine, what what Veit will do to compensate for the fact that his mouth is stuck in a grin. You see that in this film. It's absolutely fascinating. So there you go. Buster Keaton, German Expressionism in 6 films. So I will do, I'd like to do another film actually explaining German Expressionism much more broadly, looking at a lot more films. But I felt that it was really important that I get you to understanding how, like, to a point where you could actually watch them, because a lot of people, I think a lot of people are like me in that silent films are fairly new to you because they've only just actually become available. These restorations are quite new, and even if they aren't so available, or if you haven't looked into these, I had seen a German Expressionist film. I'd seen Metropolis. Most people know either Metropolis or Nosferatu. And I think both of those, both being German Expressionist films, really, really skew people's understanding of what silent film is, because they are extraordinarily stylized. They are very German Expressionist films, and that's not what all silent film is like. If you look at a D.W. Griffith, not that I'm interested in D.W. Griffith, but if you look at a D.W. Griffith, not like a German Expressionist film. If you look at a Buster Keaton, if you look at a Charlie Chaplin, if you look at a Harold Lloyd, none of them are like German Expressionist film. If you look at the big 5.5-hour Napoleon, I did that in a 24-hour period. Absolutely, you must see that. That is so good. I want more of them. There aren't more of them. Ugh. Not German Expressionist at all. And so, because for people my age, chances are you hadn't seen them seen a lot of things, and what you had seen sort of put you off the entire period of film. Or you haven't seen them at all, or you maybe have seen a bit, but you're not most people are not really certain of them. That's why I thought I will get you, I know a lot of you are Buster Keaton people, so how to go from Buster Keaton to German Expressionism. That was the point today. I can go more in depth, and Caesar will speak again if you're interested, so do let me know. I probably will, because this is my channel and I get to do what I like anyway. Do tell me if this is of interest to you, and I will awake Caesar again to talk to you about film. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.